Welcome back to my analysis series. If you're new, welcome to the channel. What we're going to do today is study everything we did wrong in the late game cash cup. If you want to improve at endgame, this is definitely worth watching to the end. So let's dive into game 1. So we finished game 1 with 60 points, but most of those points came from kills. We didn't do extremely good for placement. We did okay, but most of them came from kills. I'm pretty sure we got between 10 and 15 kills in our first game, which is very good. It's always smart to pick up as many kills as you can in your first game. W key if you have the capabilities of doing that, because the players you're going to fight in your first game are going to be way worse than like the likes of, your 5th and 6th game, because your first game everybody has 0 points. So you could be matched with top tier pros, you could be matched with very terrible players, and that's usually what happens, is you get matched with terrible players. So you can see on screen right now in the background that we see these kids all the way across the river, and I decided to beam them because they looked terrible. They're literally in the open farming in a tournament where you start off with over like 2,000 mats between your whole team, and we get a lot of beams in. And even though they're so far away, when I did a little look around, it's like everybody else is so occupied fighting in this mode that it's literally okay to rotate halfway across the map. It's only in that, the next like zone just before moving, like half and half. You can't really decide to just sprint across the map because it's so congested, everyone's so tight together. But in the first zone, you can make some serious rotates. So that's what we did. We ran all the way across the river to them, and I believe I started harpooning their walls. And I don't think I did much damage, but I got a lot of piece control and I put us all in the box. I think one of us got knocked, but it's okay because we picked up a huge amount of kills. We just got 9 points from taking out 3 people, because I think it was 3 points per kill. And then we just boxed up, we healed up, and the thing is, the position they were in, even though it's ultimate low ground, it was really tight against the mountain and it was underneath the bridge. And that's the way this zone was. That high ground was so overpowered that people could just beam down on you if you were in the open. But by being pressed up against the mountain, people can't really see you as well as if you were in the open. So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. It's good to be close, and even being under the bridge later on in the game, nobody can beam down on us because we're so tight underneath the bridge. The tarps actually in this game, I remember now, in the moving zone, we like had the tarp all the way across the bridge. I was in storm for most of it, but again, those picks that we got earlier in the game was giving me floppers. So I had floppers from a pick that I got, which actually saved my life throughout this game. And then we just kept tarping. Literally, it was an insane zone, bro. We got shot down multiple times. There was a point where we were just climbing up the side of a mountain, and then there's kids in your box. It was kind of crazy. And we did actually really well to get whatever placement we got, but again, mainly focusing on kills in that point. I'd say our biggest mistake was the fact that we didn't go for more kills, because everybody was so terrible. We did well placement wise, don't get me wrong, but again, if we had stuck together throughout that end game, and we did get split, again, that's what causes most deaths in tournaments, is just getting split from your teammates, and that's what happened. And when you split, you can't get any picks, you can't get any kills, because you're going to be 1v2ing or 1v3ing. And you're a solo. You're literally a solo. So when people see you, oh, he's by himself, let's key him. But that's not the case. You're just split from your team. So always focus on staying together as a team. But let's move on to game 2. So game 2's biggest problem was off spawn. What actually happened was me and Xylo, again my teammate, landed in a certain area, but our other teammate Codex was a bit split. And that's not a problem on his end. The server was really laggy, I'm just saying, is when you split from your teammates, you'll see throughout the gameplay in the background how kind of devastating it can be for your whole team, because kids are getting smarter in Fortnite. So when they knock one guy and they see the other team, they'll kind of judge your whole team based on that one guy. So if they caught that guy in shambles and they just demolished him, like what happened, they'll be like, oh, the other team must be that bad, so they'll just key the whole team. And you can see the way Codex kind of landed split from us and then rotated towards us as he was beamed and on low health. This did not help us, because it draw their whole team literally right onto our box, and we can't fight. The lag that was in this game off spawn was super laggy, like I mean ping lag. It wasn't even FPS, it was just you would click your mouse and then 5 seconds later something would happen. And it was very hard to do well with the charge in this tournament. That's something I want to add, is that when you're trying to charge up the charge shotgun, even when you release your finger, there's a delay between the server, response time when you release your finger to the actual shells being shot out. And that's not with any other shotgun, just the charge. So just beware when you're using the charge shotgun. There's a lot of delay when releasing that, big charge. But that's besides the point. So we just had to get out of there. I'm getting beamed at this point. We hit the pad and me and Xylo rotate away, and we literally can't take any fights now. There's 2 of us, and most teams are going to have 3 people, or if not, they're going to have 2 people, and that just makes it a 50-50, a 2v2. And if, you know, you minus 2 from 2, what happens? You're left with 0. So that's more than likely what's going to happen, is just we scuff ourselves. Whereas if you've got a 3v3, that's a 50-50. Again, but if you have a 3v2, 3 minus 2, worst case scenario, 2 of your teammates are going to die and you're going to be left alive. That's just some simple maths, bro. There's nothing complex about that. It's just kind of a formula I use to know if it's a good fight or not. Like if it's a 3v1, worst case scenario, you're going to have 3 people minus 1, because that one guy maybe kills one of your teammates. So it's down to 2 people. If that's confusing, just ignore it. But look, that's staying on topic. Me and Xylo can't fight, so we have to tarp our whole game. We can't get a refresh because there's only 2 of us, so we just have to hope we don't get focused. And obviously, we get focused, we get beamed. So that's basically how game 2 went. Let's go into game 3. And I think game 3 was a complete turnaround. I'm not sure. So hands down, game 3 was our best game, as we did take that victory royale, but we did it with only 2 players. What actually happened was I died. I died when we padded to take high ground, and that's probably how we won this game, was because we took high ground. Now, it would have been a lot easier with 3 players alive, simply because we can siphon more mats. You know, if there's 3 people alive, your total mat count can be way more, because you've got another player carrying mats that he can siphon to your tarper, whoever's tarping on your team. But I died, and me dying kind of enabled us to get high ground a lot easier, but then we're down a player. So I'll explain what happened. Was we padded for height. It was a great decision by Xylo to pad and take height, and we did it, bro. We won because we took height because of his decision. What happened though was, you know when you're landing and you're going to land literally above somebody, but you kind of land on something that they've built and you glitch through it and you guys are both locked in a box? That's what happened to me. But this guy took so long to try and fight me. Like, I mean, maybe 20 seconds to try and kill me. And then he was like, healing afterwards and stuff like that. So what that enabled was, I took him out of the fight for 20-30 seconds. He's stuck in that box healing up so he can go and fight. Meanwhile, his teammates are fighting my teammates, so it's a 2v2. So even though I've died, it's still a 2v2. Even though technically it's a 2v3, it's just that other player is down low healing. And that enables us to take high ground so easily, because they're just... like our boys, like Codex is on height, literally he knocked another guy and then finished him. So now it's a 3v2 and they don't even want height anymore. They just don't want it. So we have height the rest of the game. It came down to pretty tight, bro. We ran out of mats on height. Like we literally were on height the whole 2 moving zones, and then when it was about to finally close, we had to drop down and to take the win, which was amazing, man. It was so clutch. And thing that I want to take out of this game was the fact that I died stupidly, and it could have ruined our whole, literally could have ruined our whole tournament, because we needed that win, and you'll see why later. But then again, I died and it enabled us to do something positive. And me being dead, the comms I gave, that's what I wanted to point out, is that when you're dead, you're probably the most useful player on the team if you give communications. Now look, I don't have the clip of it right now because I didn't record the audio on the fucking recording for some reason, but what I was able to do was coach basically Xylo and Codex at the same time and point out everything they needed to do when tarping. Now I'm not taking all the credit for what these boys did getting the W, but what I'm doing is I kind of guided them in the right direction, because when you're in that kind of adrenaline mode, in the flow, you're doing everything the way you normally do it, you kind of miss out on the small things that make big differences. For example, just the direction you're tarping. You know, you might forget that, oh, zone is this way, but I'm tarping this way. So it's just simple things, and you know, kind of giving just, you know, split mats here, or like there's a free kill here, you boys should both dive on him, or like, hey, watch Codex, he might go for a kill here, you gotta back him up. Just giving simple communications, because when they're focused, they forget to talk. So a big help to always give communications when you're down. Let's go on to game 4. I want to skip ahead to game 12 real quickly. I don't want to be talking about all the other games. They were good games. Don't think we got scuffed in them. I'm just thinking about your time and watching this video, that I don't want to kind of include every single game. I just want to cover the main games that big decisions happened. And we did get 500 points in this tournament. So, you know, most games were just consistent placement games where we sat in a box and did nothing the whole game. So I want to be looking at the games where we did pick up a few kills or we made some really good decisions. And game 12 is just one of those games. Again, I think we kind of went for height, but we got like a semi-height. After height got really contested, we were just like, this is not worth it. So we took a series of pads, and then we were in the moving zones. And while we were in the moving zones, what's real important to notice is that we stayed at the front of that moving zone. You don't want to fall to the back in the moving zones, because you will get bullied. It's okay to do that in something like a solo tournament, but in duos and trios, it's not going to cut it. You need to stay at the front, because everybody on height is looking at the back of moving zone. They're spraying the back of moving zone because it's more open. The kills are more free than the people at the front of moving zone, because the kids at front of moving zone are directly below height. so they can't really beam them because it's an awkward angle to look straight down, so it's easier to just look back and down. So that's why it's better to be at the front. And on top of that, you can actually just pull out to the side of your box and start spraying back into the back of moving zone as well, and get yourself some free kills and maybe a refresh. And you're kind of just gatekeeping the front of moving zone, which is kind of what we did for a certain amount of time in this tournament. We did pick up a few kills in our tarps, and there was these kids below us at one point, and I just looked down, and we needed to pick because we were literally building out of wood, so we would have gotten targeted towards late game. So we needed to pick up that refresh. We did pick up the refresh, but I think Codex got shot, and the reason being was because of the piece control. There was some like monument style building, like it was prefab kind of building, and we couldn't place our wall there for some reason, or our floor, and it was so frustrating because it cost him like his whole health. So again, it's just coming down to these things before we jump into boxes. Piece control, bro, you got to be fully aware of it. And again, if you guys want more videos like this, definitely let me know. But on screen right now, you should be able to see the previous version of this. And again, I'm just analyzing tournaments, bro. I'm just picking apart what I did right, what I did wrong. If you want to keep seeing these videos, make sure you like. Thank you so much. I'm gone.